Messrs. Kalishaw, Jones, Isola, Ms. McMullen, and Bosch, Machado, King's Things, and everything from the Belmont. Frank, that's your race. What do you know? Let's go around the horn.
Hey, I want some oatmeal.
Welcome to Around the Horn, presented by Smirnoff, part of Happy Hour. Here's Tony Reali.
Welcome back around to the panel that's chasing history. Bomani Jones, 96 career wins, closing on 100. Jackie McMullen, 148 wins, closing in on 150. Tim Kalishaw, Frank Isola, also appearing in today's program. Okay. Let's go around the horn.
It's the first word.
2 games in this series. Throw out the air conditioning. Throw out LeBron cramps. 2 games in this series with leads given away in the back end of the fourth quarter. Free throw, free throw, free throw, free throw. Bench for Parker for a little bit. And the defensive letdown. Bosch seeing it for the clincher. LeBron James, 35, 10, and 3 on 64% shooting. That's how you get the electrolytes back in the body. Timmy, after the way Game 1 ended, was last night bigger win for the Heat or loss for the Spurs?
Bigger win for the Heat. I mean, if it wasn't obvious from the second quarter on, LeBron wanted to put Game 1 out of his mind, out of his misery, and no more LeBroning from everybody. If they had lost a game where he has 35 and 10 and is shooting over 60% and is just lighting up three-pointers in the third quarter, then they might have asked, what do we need to do to beat this Spurs team? Instead, they did what they always do. They won a road game. They've done it 16 straight series. Ever since LeBron and Bosch and Wade have been together, they've won a road series. No other NBA team has ever had a streak that long. They've taken the series, not control of it, but they put it back in their own hands, and that's what they had to do.
Bomani Jones?
Well, I think it was a bigger win for the Heat. Look, coming back home 1-1 is pretty good. Coming back home down 0-2 really, really stinks. You don't want to wind up in a situation where you got to win 4 of the last 5 games of the series. So it was definitely bigger for them. And also, the win quiets what would have been the most maddening talk surrounding any team that you would have ever seen if they would have lost that game again. After LeBron had to get carried off the floor in Game 1, if they wouldn't have won that Game 2, can you imagine? Now, you can say that team has been insulated from this because they've dealt with so much of it. That's absolutely true. But there are other guys who aren't LeBron James. So Chris Bosh playing well, getting 14 points out of Rashard Lewis. And now you get to come home with the split. I think it was bigger for them.
Frank Isola?
Hey, let's hear it for Powerade. I look at what San Antonio did. To me, they kind of had some brain cramps, that final couple of minutes there. The missed free throws were huge, and Tim Duncan, his free throw shooting has always been a problem. Go back to Game 6 last year. Ginobili 1 of 2 from the line. Kawhi Leonard 1 of 2 from the line in that Game 6 that they lost. So this has been an issue with the Spurs. You look at Miami, they've won 11 straight home playoff games. That dates back to when Tony Parker hit that improbable shot at the end of Game 1. So I think for the Spurs, they let a golden opportunity slip away despite the fact that LeBron was brilliant. I thought in a lot of ways they took bad shots and the missed free throws were huge.
Jackie McMullen.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's interesting, though, Frank. I looked it up. Duncan last year in the postseason shot 80% from the line. I don't know how he ever makes a free throw. What's the first thing you teach someone? Bend your knees. Use your legs to shoot the free throw. It's astonishing to me he makes any of them. I don't know if it's because he's bone on bone. I think this is a very big loss for the Spurs because the one thing you worry about with them, they have a tendency at times to have big turnovers. In this game, they only had 11 turnovers in total. That usually is a recipe for success for them. When Tony Parker has 20 or more points, that's usually a recipe for success for them. The Heat did a good job of putting bigger bodies on Parker and limiting. And here's the stat that really, I think, is bad news for the Spurs. They were outscored 44-34 in the paint. That's really bad news.
So you'd say that he'd have control of this series. Tim, before you stopped just short of that. Why are you stopping short?
Well, because the Spurs have the Spurs had to go 7 games to beat Dallas to get started. They had to figure out some things. They're going to have to figure out some things here, but they have the weapons to do it. And when you lose a game because of missed free throws, it's not like, oh my God, how are we going to correct this? You just got to make some free throws.
Well, I don't know about control. We've seen too many series to know that if one game swings the other direction, that will change up our entire narrative. But one thing about LeBron, there's an element of force to his game that's there now that wasn't there when the criticism was loudest in 2010 and 2011. The way he went in the first half and just went in the paint and basically fouled Kawhi Leonard out, that's a big change we've seen from him over the last couple of years.
And remember that game against Indiana when he gave up the ball to Chris Bosh and he's getting all this criticism. Last night, the biggest moment of the game, he finds Chris Bosh, three-pointer, gives him the lead for good.
Oh, and then on the other play, when Bosh finds Wade underneath the basket. Last word, Jackie McMullen.
Here's the biggest difference with LeBron James. Last year in the postseason, he shot 33% on jump shots. In this postseason so far, 54%. That's what great players do. They elevate the next part of their game.
We'll move on. Hope you guys caught Good Morning America this morning. Hope you catch it every morning. California Crow, along with Steve Coburn, apologizing for his weekend of rant, plural, telling Robin Roberts he's very ashamed of himself. And Tonalist won the race fair and square. That is a decidedly different tone than when he called everybody who didn't run all 3 races cowards and cheaters, and compared it to himself playing basketball against a kid in a wheelchair. His words. Jackie, what are your thoughts on Coburn's comments and apology this morning?
Well, obviously, the comments right afterwards were silly. I thought they were absurd. But you know what? You could chalk it up to the emotion or the heat of the moment. A day later, when he made the comparison to the player to a child in a wheelchair, that really bothered me. I found that to be a little over the top. But you know what? Everybody has a right to apologize. And there's no statute of limitations on apologies. So in the end, he does the right thing, probably because his wife, who I'm very impressed with, said to him, "Do you understand what a jerk you sounded like?" I'll tell you what, though, the thing that I don't understand is why this is so shocking to him. Do you realize that 4 other times this has happened where a horse has beaten someone about to have a chance at a Triple Crown that hadn't run in the other 2 races?
I'm not sure if he thought it was shocking. The basis of his rant, we'll go to Frank Isola here, is that you've got horses that haven't raced in all 3 races versus a horse that's going for the Triple Crown here, and that's not fair. Is there some truth to that, Frank?
I don't think so at all. That's always been the case. And why not bring that up before the race? He waits until after the race is over and, disparaging everyone else that was in the field. This has always been the case where some horses don't race in the Kentucky Derby, maybe not at Pimlico, but they show up at the Belmont. I got a big kick out of his wife trying to get him to stop on Saturday. What if Greg Popovich, when he's doing these sideline interviews, what if he had a family member poking him saying, "Leave Doris Burke alone"? But you know what, though? I thought what he did at the end, it was classless. And you know what? California Chrome is a nice horse, and he made him look bad.
Bomani Jones.
Well, Frank, he didn't bring that up before the race because they were too busy making sure that horse could wear that Neil Smith Nelly Band-Aid over his nose, right? Like, that's the grand irony of all of this. We're talking about what's fair and what's not while you were trying to get this accommodation made for your horse so that he could go for this chance at the Triple Crown. I do feel like I need to tell the Coburn guy, you really don't need to apologize to me or anybody else. We were all going to forget about you in the first place. I'm with Jackie. That all has to do with that lady that was sitting next to him. Look, we're talking about him on TV, but I'm not the one that's got to sleep with him. He had to get that right to go back, I guarantee you, because he made everybody look crazy.
I think people will accept his apology, but it won't matter because America doesn't largely know Steve Coburn, so they're always just going to remember the rant after the race because that's what everybody was watching. I don't think he even realizes it, but what he's essentially saying is we only want to run against horses we already beat. We don't want to go against anybody else. We want horses we beat in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. Give us those horses. Don't give us any distance
like
horses.
You guys on this
don't
panel,
make this
though. You always want
to
play against guys you've already beat. Jackie Mack, back in.
The one thing I would think you're going to start hearing more of, though, is this idea of giving more time off in between the Triple Crown races. Has been a little bit of a groundswell
So you would
support
change.
for that.
You would change how these races,
well,
which
you know
have been
what?
run for 150 years.
The Triple Crown is great for horse racing. It hasn't happened in 36 years. If you want it to happen, give these horses more time off in between races.
Frank, do you agree with that? Changing the way this is scheduled?
No, it's not a tournament. Each of the 3 races is separate. We've turned it into the Triple Crown. And me being the hater that I am, I was kind of rooting against California Chrome because I like the fact that nobody's done it in a long time. Really make it special.
Could you be more New York? Rooting against. Go ahead, Bomani Jones. Last word.
Look at Bug Nasty Eye Solo. The one thing Tim went back to, though, is you start talking about distance, we forget that. The Belmont is the tough one because it's the longer one. There may be just another reason he lost. He just lost.
Isola 13, Jones 11, McMullen 11, Kalish 9. You got some things to say about your panelists today, Timmy? You beat them in the past before.
Yeah, I've beat them a lot of times. I want to keep playing them, but I don't really care for the scoring so far.
That's why that man borrowed your hat.
We're taking a break. Fire Cell next. Coming up, Alain Vignon beat you guys to the punch. Calls tonight a must-win. Should just be hoping for a must-not give away a 2-goal lead. Also, A's and O's this weekend. Anything but A-OK. Acuna Machado means all worries. He's throwing bats at people.
Buy or sell.
Your Rangers, Frank, they can't defend the crease. They can't defend Times Square. Called out by Will Ferrell. Now they're in an 0-2 anchor, man, and still rankled about the Kings' goal by King on the King. No interference after it had been called on them earlier in the game, per league rules on ice call only, no review allowed. How should the Rangers feel about the 0-2 hold they're in, Kalishaw?
Well, first of all, they need to get over that call. If they remember Game 1 against Montreal, Chris Kreider going into skates first to Carey Price and wiping out the Montreal goalie for the playoffs. Secondly, they need to think about those overtimes they played and how they've blown these leads and couldn't score. They've got to make up for that.
Jones.
Yeah, it feel like they blew a 2-goal lead in that one. It feel like you've got the best goaltender in the league. You guys sure have given up a lot of goals in the course of this series. But it's hockey. This could swing back the other way just that quick. It's still 2 overtime games. The margin's been that big.
You know, last year they fell behind 0-2 to the Capitals. They came back and won it. To me, they've outplayed the Kings. They should be optimistic about that and the fact that they're home. But they got to keep skating in that third period. Game 1. Awful third period, and then of course they spent too much time worrying about the goal that should have been disallowed. They need to get over that.
Jackie McMullen.
Frank, I don't see how you can say they've outplayed the Kings in this series when the Kings are a plus 13 in the third period when games are won or lost. And if you blow 2-point leads not once, not twice, but 3 times in a game, I don't think that's outplaying them. Well, yeah, but if you can't hold on to them, who cares? It's kind of like on this show. You're in trouble, I think, actually.
Oh, all right. So there it is.
All right, Jack.
But the other thing is...
Go ahead, Jackie, please.
I was just going to say that 3 for 38 on the power play, New York Rangers at home. That's 7.9%.
So Vigneault says must win. You will win tonight, Jackie, for New York?
No.
Oh, I didn't think so. How about you, Frank?
First Stanley Cup final game since '94, they will win.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Shaw?
Rangers win tonight, next series.
Bull Marty, with conviction. An extra point for that. A's O's this weekend.
I have no conviction here.
Multiple Manny Machado machinations here. Yesterday, everyone I'm shocked. The bat came out of my hands in your direction after the brush back pitch earlier, after the backswing, after the other backswing that hit the helmet of the catcher, after Friday's HBP, after the push, after the tag. What should baseball do here, Bomani?
I'm not sure exactly what the suspension ought to be, but look, they've got the rules there. The ball is allowed to be used as a weapon in selective circumstances. The bat, Aswan Marichal, they draw the line at that one. This is probably going to be pretty big.
Right, guy Sola?
You know, I'd love to know what Buck Showalter, Mr. Old School Baseball, thinks about his player doing this. I think when baseball looks at everything in totality, he's got to be suspended at least 10 games. Completely out of line what he did.
McMullen.
Yeah, and it's a shame. He's a good young player, but he's so busy trying to be Machado man that he's really let this game get out of hand. And you can't throw a bat like that. I don't know where he was aiming. It doesn't matter. It's way too
Kalashaw.
Yeah, I still don't think, those of us who remember Bert Campaneris throwing a bat in the playoffs, this was not as bad as that. I think if there is a suspension, it's minimal, but yeah, Machado needs to learn.
What do you think of how it escalated? I mean, it started on Friday. We had bats hit the back of catchers' helmets, Tim.
Yeah.
Machado doesn't like playing against a third baseman who's better than he is.
Josh Donaldson. Wow, fighting words. We'll move on. Frank, when do you leave for the World Cup?
I am leaving July 2nd, Tony.
Great. You know it starts Thursday. Bob Woodruff posted video of the Sao Paulo Stadium. No toilets yet, Frank, so go now while you can. Our Pablo Torre will be at the Cup as well. Green cards from the edge. That's frightening. U.S. arriving in Brazil this morning after the Josie-ful win over Nigeria this weekend. 3 straight wins and warm-ups. Ghana is a week from today, as you know, Frank. You feeling like this team is World Cup ready?
And that's why I'm not going. I'm not going until they fix the bathrooms over there. I'm still worried about the back line. Josie Altidore will score. He's a goal scorer. I know he struggled in the Premier League this year, only scored 2 times. But defense is an issue. Their last 2 friendlies, they gave up penalty kicks, and that's without playing the great Ronaldo of Portugal and also against Germany. I'm worried about the defense.
But you started with Josie. You think Josie's World Cup ready right now?
I definitely do, and I think, you know what, when he talked about his goal-scoring drought, he wasn't getting too wrapped up in it, and even the way that he celebrated, he wasn't over the top, so I think he's pretty confident going into the World Cup.
But he hadn't scored since last December, is that right, Frank? That's a really long drought. So it's good that he's on the board. It's good that they closed up their defensive problems a little bit. But let's be honest, and I am no soccer expert, I'll say that up front, but are we really expecting the U.S. to win the World Cup or to even get out?
Oh, we're not going to have this conversation again whether they can win the World Cup or not. We did this with Klinsmann last week. Kalashaw, get in there.
Look, I think they need to be ready for the World Cup. We're ready to go on vacation, so they ought to be ready. Can they beat Ghana? They've lost to them in the last 2 World Cups. I mean, it's a very difficult assignment they've been given, but hopefully they're ready.
Yeah, I mean, they looked like they were ready. I saw them get off the planes. I'm assuming that their bags are packed. But what are we talking about beyond that? Look, when we started off with this, that was the toughest group in the field. Now it's all the way down to number 2 with Germany and Portugal, 2 of the top 5 teams. And as Tim said, Ghana, a team that they've struggled with the last 2 times they played them. It doesn't look good.
I saw 21, McMullen 19, Jones 17, Kalashaw 15. And you said you were ready for vacation. How ready are you?
I didn't have enough passion when I was talking. Bomani got points for passion when he was talking about the Rangers are going to win tonight. Should I hold this up?
Well, you're not getting any points besides that Stanley Cup. That's what you're not getting. Jones, Isola, McMullen lighting around next. Coming up, if 9 French titles means Rafael Nadal's the best ever, and whether John Calipari will regret turning down the Cleveland Cavaliers. Turned down for what? Iceman coming, 21 points in the league, closing in on 15 career wins. He wants it. There's Jackie Mack, 19, Joe, 17. It's the lightning round. 9 for Nadal, each time celebrating like it's the first. More dominant in France than anyone's been dominant anywhere. Well, Monty, can you make a case for greatest ever with 9 of his 14 coming in one locale?
Well, you probably can, because the most logical competitor to that would be Roger Federer, who Nadal is 9-2 against in Grand Slam finals. So you have that. But Federer has that unending consistency. It's not just about the wins, but the records for finals. The only guy to go to three times to the final of each Grand Slam event. It's all those other things that he has on his resume that Nadal just does.
Isola?
Big fashion faux pas, showing up with the same outfit as Djokovic for the final. I don't like that. But as much as it pains me to say this, because I love Roger Federer, I think you have to put Nadal up there for the reasons Bomani mentioned. Plus, Nadal beat Federer at Wimbledon. Federer has never beat Nadal at the French Open on the clay, so he's beat Federer on his best surface. That's why you have to give it to Nadal.
You're going with a very exotic pronunciation of Nadal.
Thank you.
I kind of like what you did there. Okay, Jackie, go ahead.
And you know what? You're exactly right, Frank. The fact that win at Wimbledon. And when do we just say, listen, he's got 2 Wimbledons, he's got 2 U.S. Opens, he's won the Australian, Nadal's won every single one of them. Why at some point do we stop saying he's a specialist? That doesn't even seem fair to me.
And to Bomani's point about his consistency, well, Nadal's not done yet. He still has years ahead of him.
Yeah, jazz about right now, though.
The future's not promised to anyone, but he can still build and catch and pass Federer potentially.
We keep waiting for him to break down.
Adrian Wojnarowski and Mark Stein, both with reports today that before re-signing with Kentucky for $56 million last week, John Calipari reportedly turned down anywhere from $60 million to $80 million with the Cleveland Cavaliers for coach and president. Do you want to see Frank Calipari in the NBA with the Cavs?
Why not? I think he wants to get back to the NBA, but you know what? You look at it, he has a better job right now, and it's not like we're going to hold a telethon for John Calipari or a fundraiser. He is getting 7 years, $52 million at Kentucky. At some point, he will be back in the NBA, but it's going to be a job like that. President, head coach.
Point blank, though, what's the better job, Kentucky or the Cleveland Cavaliers, Frank?
Right now, Kentucky.
Jack, you want to answer that?
Absolutely, Kentucky, and that's why John Calipari isn't going to take this job, because Frank's right. Someone is going to appeal to him again in the NBA, and I, for one, would like to see it. He was a much younger coach, less experienced with the NBA game when he was with the New Jersey Nets. I think he's more seasoned now. I think he'd have a lot of success.
Though. Last week, when this story came up, the panel seemed to think it was Kentucky for life, or some on the panel seemed to think he was with Kentucky for the long term here.
No, he's coming back to the NBA.
Bomani, you want to throw your hat in the ring?
Well, Jackie, I'll say this. He may have become seasoned and be a little bit more sophisticated on things than he was before, but you can't change who you are, and he's a super-duper high-strung guy, and I don't know if that works out well for 82 games. I wouldn't want to see him in the NBA because I wouldn't want to see anybody unhappy, because I think the end result would be him unhappy and the Cleveland Cavaliers unhappy.
Do you think Kentucky did a better job than Cleveland with the #1 pick coming? And you do?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I said you would throw your hat in the ring, just in your pinky ring in the ring. That's what you should throw.
Yeah, I was adding up the points here, and I'm just a little bit confused. Like, could you tell me more about the
scoring system? Nothing to be confused about. You're getting struck by lightning. There it is. Isola and McMullen. That's our showdown. 2 enter. Only 1 will leave. And straight ahead, a Royals ball boy give it, and a Royals ball boy take it away. He wanted nothing to do with that other one. Number 2. Jackie McMullen, Frank Isola. 2 quick showdowns and 30 seconds apiece. Good luck to you both. Last time Johnny Manziel played baseball was junior year in high school. San Diego Padres drafting him 837th overall. Now that is a long wait in the green room. It may be made more manageable if you think if you're Billy Madison in a pool, if that is in fact Manziel on a swan. What stood out to you, Frank?
It's got to be the Swan because you have to know your audience. You got drafted by the Cleveland Browns. That's the Rust Belt. You want to be sitting in a lounge chair with a beer, not on a Swan with champagne. Know your audience.
And you know what? If you're going to be on a Swan with champagne, at least have a bathing suit on. I like the fact that he was drafted by the San Diego Padres, and their answer to what Josh Burns said, why not? I love it. He's right. Why not? We're talking about the Padres now.
We are. You think there's any chance he ever tries to play baseball?
Of course not.
Okay, so we've all come a long way to be tied 1-1. We'll move on. The Royals ball boy who snagged the fair ball and gave it to a fan, but then realized it was a fair ball. The next time he sees it, doesn't even move off the chair. You like the way you played that, Jackie? Lesson learned?
I so do. I feel so sorry for this young. Can you imagine him sitting there after the first one, his heart racing 10,000 miles an hour, and he's thinking, hey, you can get it. I'm not dumb. I'm not blowing this again.
That's the mother and Jackie to give the kid an out. He made a mistake the first time. He made a mistake the second time. This is the problem with this country. We have to hold our young kids more responsible.
I cannot believe you're going there. Right. I cannot believe you're going there.
This is the problem with the country, man. Should you win, Frank, 3 words or fewer, what's your FaceTime?
World Cup soccer.
Is there any other kind? Jackie Mack.
No horn. Sad.
I'm going to go with the World Cup soccer. Let's hear what it is.
There we go. Hey, folks, listen, I can't wait for the World Cup. I'm not going to be one of these soccer snobs that tells you to watch the games. But do yourself a favor. Watch the introductions. When the players walk out holding hands with the little kids, you hear the anthems. When you hear the French national anthem, you'll say to yourself, it kind of sounds like the beginning of the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. Listen to England sing God Save the Queen, and then Gigi Buffon, the Italian goalie, he sounds like Pavarotti singing the Italian national anthem, and to put your hand over your heart when the U.S. plays the national anthem.
I like that. Thank you very much for that FaceTime, Frank Isola, and be very safe in Brazil. We'll see you on the back end.
Good luck, Frank.
Thank you to folks on 23.5-hour break. We'll see you tomorrow, and we all challenge you on our World Cup Bracket Challenge on ESPN.com.
What's wrong about you, Frank? You did win today.